y'all. So my name is Kiori Taylor, and I am super excited that you have decided to join me today. On this channel, we talk about everything that I experience, and that could be anything ranging from love, relationships with friends, career, health, my beliefs. But don't worry, I try to keep it all very general so that we can all take away life lessons for it. And I just believe that what I have to share is really going to touch you in a positive way. And I would really appreciate if you guys would subscribe below so that we could build this community together and really be able to grow into the people that we are truly called to become. So let's dive right in today's topic, which is high standards equal high reward. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, and it's something that it's probably a given what is required in order to have high standards, and that is discipline. We have to be disciplined in many areas of our lives, but the reason that so many people struggle with discipline is because they try to be disciplined in so many areas at once. And discipline really just doesn't happen that way. The reason that it doesn't is because discipline is nothing more than creating a habit. And we all know how long it takes to create a habit. Some people believe 21 days. Some people believe 66 days. I'm a firm believer that if you can do something for 2 to 3 months nonstop, 90 days, I think that is really the umbrella over everything. And then it's like second nature in your mind, and you'll be able to then create a new habit, because the habit that you just formed is not something that you're working on. Now it's just a part of who you are and the way that you move. So you can be disciplined in a lot of different areas of your life. That could be devotion, because people who are disciplined in having devotion and spending time with God, like, we have to admit, those people are blessed, especially if they are paying tithes to the church. It's a law, it's a principle, it just happens, even if people aren't super spiritual. But people who are disciplined in those areas, we know it. Number two, you can be disciplined in practicing your craft. You can be disciplined in learning, and that could be anything from making sure that you are reading a certain amount of time every week or every day. It could be making sure that you get on YouTube to study people who have been where you're trying to go. It could be you having weekly or monthly meetups with different mentors, or it could be you wanting to do interviews of 100 people in 6 months, or making a to-do to have coffee with a new person every week. You can be disciplined when it comes to your career and it comes to your aspiration in lots of different ways. Obviously, I've just named a few. You can also be disciplined in going to the gym. Why is this important? Because by going to the gym, not only do we supposedly live longer, but it really helps with our beauty regimen. It's so important that we stop just throwing makeup on everything. Sure, makeup, it's good, but it only looks as good as your skin does underneath. And no matter how much facial cleaner you put on your skin, water and exercise are really the miracle workers that you have to deal with. So why do some of us struggle with discipline? I've already said before, we struggle with discipline because, one, many of us are trying to do too many things at once. But another very powerful reason that many of us struggle with being disciplined is because we really don't have the confidence in ourselves in order to go after what we really want. Which is really interesting, because self-confidence really is an umbrella over a lot of the things we do. And you can have self-confidence in one area, but maybe not have it in another area. For example, you can be very confident in the way that you look, but maybe not so confident in your abilities. You can be very confident in your ability to produce very good work, but maybe not so confident that the right doors are going to open for you. You can be very confident in all of the things that you can control, but when it comes to your dreams really coming true, you really have a hard time believing that those things are even possible. And that in itself really messes a lot of us up when it comes to discipline, because what we need in order to be disciplined is we need a vision. We need to be able to see ourselves winning. We need to be able to, touch it, feel it, smell it. We need to be able to imagine ourselves there in order to manifest it. And sometimes if our belief isn't strong enough to go after the things that we want, then it really isn't strong enough for us to be disciplined in that area, because you and I both know what it's like to start off with New Year's resolutions, going to the gym 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and after 21 days, it's like, sayonara, I did the best that I could do. You have to keep going, and the only way you're going to be able to motivate yourself to keep going is you're going to have to train yourself to have confidence in an area that is going to manifest the future that you want for yourself. And I did say train yourself. Train yourself to have self-confidence. I think a lot of us believe that self-confidence is something that we just naturally have, or that we were raised with at a young age. And let me just tell you, part of that is true. I did spend a lot of mornings talking to my parents, and they said, hey, beautiful, good morning, beautiful. But I will tell you that as I get older, the confidence that I have in the way that I present myself to the world does not automatically qualify me to have confidence when it comes to going after the things that I want. Like, everybody struggles with confidence on different levels, but everybody is able to correct the direction that they're going in, build confidence in a certain area, and they're able to go after it. The most important thing that you have to do in order to accomplish building confidence is, again, have a vision, have an image that's so deeply imprinted in your mind that you're not going to have to convince yourself to be confident in it, because that's going to be the only thing that you see. It's going to be the only thing that you know, the only thing you want, the only thing you desire. That's going to become your truth until it becomes your reality. Let's dive into some examples about how high standards equal high reward, because even though this is very prevalent in many areas of our lives, I think it's very easy to take generic, one-liners and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's very hard to apply that concept to our lives unless somebody puts it where we can reach it. So one example that I want to share is having high standards in a relationship. I can only speak from my experience, and I'm pretty sure some of y'all can speak from y'all's experience when it comes to having low standards in a relationship. And a lot of times, those relationships, they don't start off bad. They don't start off making you feel unworthy or less than. Honestly, a lot of times, those relationships start off very fun, and there's so much excitement, and there's so much, promise for the future. And as time goes on, what it lacks is commitment. What it lacks is consistent execution. What it lacks is that person being extremely excited to show you off to their friends and their family, and it just turns into a routine. And I don't know about y'all, but I need excitement. I want to be seen. I want to do things over and over again. Like, I feel like some of those things are what make me feel loved, other than having an intimate connection with that person, which doesn't always have to be physical. And I think when it comes to having low standards in a relationship, it's because the whole relationship evolves around being physical, whether that's attraction, whether that's sex, whether that's, anything that when you go to sleep at night and you're like, okay, I wish we did more of this. Whatever that is missing, like, that's a standard that you're not upholding. And we really have to learn to be confident in telling people what we want. Yes, it's super important that you say what you want in a way that the other people can receive that well, because yelling at people never changed anything. Communication is key in this area. But whenever you're doing your part, and whenever you've invested time, and whenever you've communicated what you want, and that other person isn't willing to adapt, that means that that your standard is high, And that means that you have to make a hard choice, no matter how much time you've invested, to walk away from that situation. And it's gonna be hard because you're gonna think, well, 60% of this stuff was good, but that 60% is really not going to make you happy or sustain you long term. And you know this because you're starting to get that itch now. Whenever we do things very bold, like walk away from relationships that we know are not good for us, what we do is we give ourselves an extra dose of confidence to be bold in other areas of our life. And where the discipline part of this comes in is not going back. Like, sometimes we want to go back. I'm guilty of wanting to go back and going back, and it never ends well. And it doesn't end well because the reason that we left was strong enough to make us leave in the first place. And we can't change people. People have to want to change on their own. And if people didn't want to change before you left, then they're probably not going to after it's all done. You have to be confident in who you are, and then you have to practice discipline after that in order to stick to your guns, create a high standard, and then just put all your faith in God that He's going to reward you for not stooping too low. He's going to reward you from trusting that He is able to change your situation. And I truly am a believer that when we put our trust and our whole selves in God, He always comes through for us. Maybe not when we want Him to, but He always does. Now, speaking from the career side, when we want to talk about discipline, there was a time where I was doing really great at work, but I was no longer passionate about the things that I was doing. And I decided that it was time for me to walk away. And when I decided to walk away, I was ready to start a business, but at the same time, I was kind of on the line of, did I want to get another job or did I not? And for the first few months, it was really up to me to be productive every day, because I don't know about y'all, but as adults, it's very hard to have a snow day. And when every day feels like a snow day and there's no snow outside, you realize how much time is passing. And so I would have to do things like get up at a certain time in the morning, put certain things in my routine in order to keep me on track, like go to the gym at the same time every day, make sure I was doing meal prep, make sure that I was putting encounters on my calendar to make sure that I was out meeting people and that I was constantly having intelligent conversation in order to keep me stimulated in what I wanted for the future. And that wasn't easy. It definitely required discipline. Discipline in creating a routine did help me get on the meal plan. It did help me get to the gym. It did help me do some other things in the business area of my life. But there's no way that I would be able to manage getting my career on a disciplined track and trying to manage a whole new relationship at the same time and thinking about like what it is that I want for the future and adding all of these other things in there. What I would recommend is that whenever you're focused on being disciplined, figure out how you can create goals in order to bring all of those things together so it makes sense for everything that falls underneath it to push it back up to the top. Kind of touching on it a little bit, going to the gym is super important when it comes to creating discipline, but we all know that we can't just go once a week. We can't just go twice a week. We can't go and then eat whatever we want to because we feel like we've just done so much work. Like, we can do that, but we're not gonna yield the results that we want. And in this case, this is when we have to create a high standard for ourselves to say that even if we're going to the gym 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we don't see any results, we have to keep that standard high. We have to continue to follow that meal plan. We have to continue to follow the wisdom of the person who's training us or who's teaching us or the study guide that we're following to know that if we don't quit, we will succeed. We will go from New Year's resolution in January to fine body in the summer, doing everything that we want to do because we were able to keep that high standard for ourselves. And all I can say, ladies, if getting fit is something that you are super interested in, like, you're gonna know whenever you're getting the reward that you want. Because let me tell you, getting your fitness in check is a game changer as far as attraction goes. Now you've just heard different examples of different areas in your life where you can create high standards for yourself in order to reap high rewards. But I know me, sometimes I need more practical steps. I need for people to put advice where I can reach it so I know how to apply it to my own life. And because I'm this way, I'm going to help you figure out what you could be doing in your life in order to create higher standards on a regular basis. The first thing that you have to do is figure out, what do you want? So often I have no idea what I want, yet I want to hold people to the standard of treating me like I know what I want. And let me just tell you something, that backfires every single time, because people will treat you the way that you treat yourself. And if you're not treating yourself like you have high standards, people are going to be like, forget what you said, I'm going to do what you do. You hear it all the time, people don't do what you say, they do what you do. It's also important because whenever we have high standards for ourselves, we teach people how to treat us, and we constantly define ourselves further and further into becoming the person that we like to become. And that's super important because that's really what we're here for. We're here to create impact. We're here to become the best version of ourselves, and we're here really to lead by example, you know. And you can't lead by example with low standards. Like, you can, but is that really the final thought that you want to leave in the world? Like, it is very apparent whenever you have low standards, because that's when you tend to lose yourself. That's when you tend to have a life that's full of chaos and frustration and limiting beliefs and indecisiveness, and you are living by other people's opinions, and you are just incredibly full of self-doubt. And let me tell you something, that is no way to live. So if you have any of those characteristics that are plaguing you, you really should interrogate yourself and ask, what are your standards, and are they as high as they should be? Another way you can identify if your standards are high enough is, do people laugh whenever they hear what it is that you require? It sounds silly. It really sounds silly, because people say, you know, people laugh to keep from crying. And they do. People laugh whenever they're embarrassed, whenever they're hurt, whenever they're angry, or whenever they're jealous. If people are laughing at your dreams, best believe they're probably jealous that they are not going after something as big as you've gone after, or they know that they could never do it themselves, and so the only way that they can deal with it is for them to just laugh it off. When you find yourself in that situation, rest assured that you're probably on the right track. A third thing that you can do in order to recognize whether or not your standards are high enough is, you can start asking yourself, are you attracting in your life what it is that you represent? Like, are you attracting other people who live by high standards? Because when they say birds of a feather flock together, that really is true in a lot of ways. When people say that you are a collection of the 5 people that you spend your time with, like, that is really true. So you have to, one, eliminate the people in the community that you have who also has low standards, and you have to migrate into people who, you have to migrate into a community of people who reflect what it is that you want. And then you have to question, once you've raised your standards, are you starting to attract people that are living by the standards that you require from yourself? And then last but not least, are you consulting God with the things that you want? Because we can all think that we have high standards in life, but the reality is that God's ways are far greater and far above anything that we could ever imagine. And when we put God in a box and say, this is the highest that I believe that you're capable of, then this may be all that you get when God is trying to take you here. And we'll never know if we don't continue to consult with God. Like, is this what you want from my life? And sometimes that's not always going to be what we believe is best, but we have to have that ongoing relationship and communication in order to really make sure that we're living our life in a way that yields the results that we want to see. And I think that that makes a lot of sense, not only because I've experienced it in my own life, but I've watched other people, go after goals that they did not consult God about, and when they were 90% there, they lost it all. And it's a very sad thing to watch. Or maybe they got 100% there and they weren't satisfied. Don't let that be you. So I know that I said today's video was going to be pretty straightforward and pretty simple because we are talking about a very common topic, which is high standards equal high rewards. But as you can see, like, it can really get complicated. It can really get complicated if we're not focused on what it is that we want in life. And I think that that's a common theme that you're going to see in a lot of videos, is that knowing what you want is key. Knowing what you desire and what is best for you, whether it's right or wrong, like, it's essential, because if all God needs from you is for you to play your part. Sometimes you may not see the mountaintop, but I promise you that if you get on the path in the right direction and you're disciplined and you're productive and you surround yourself with the right people and you're constantly consulting with God, things are going to manifest in your life that you've never expected before. And that is what yielding high rewards is all about. So thank y'all for tuning in today. Again, my name is Kiore Taylor. I am super excited that you are going to be joining my community, because if you haven't already, you're going to subscribe below. And until next time, stay encouraged.